Hi! In this tutorial we'll cover setting up the optimal rendering settings for our animation. Let's go to the Render Properties tab. Here we select Cycles, GPU Compute. Next, we'll set the number of samples and the threshold parameter. Use a noise threshold value around 0.1. You may also try 0.2 or 0.3, since our scene is quite simple and has very few small details. If this value is too high, some details may get lost. In this case, the seams may become barely visible, so I'll leave it at 0.1. Here we'll set the maximum number of samples to 100. The default value of 4000 is too high. By reducing this parameter, we may greatly increase our rendering speed, and the result will be almost the same. Since the light hits the object directly, we need a small number of samples to get a high-end render. We may even set it to 50. Next, check the denoise box, open the tab and check the Use GPU box. So at the end of each frame rendering, denoise will be done using video memory. This is much faster than using CPU, so it will also reduce our rendering time. Next up is max bounces. A sample comes from the light source and bounces off objects in the scene. And again, since we have a very simple scene, where the object is in the center and the light hits it directly, we may set low values for the bounce samples. For example, high values for these parameters will be needed in an interior scene, where light often doesn't illuminate objects directly, and there is a lot of glass, reflections and small details. Also in this scene we use volume shader, so here we'll need some value greater than 0. Next is the caustics section, and since we don't have glass in our scene, we may turn off caustics calculation. The next setting is the fast global illumination. Since our scene is simple, I recommend enabling this option. This will make the rendering speed several times faster due to a simpler calculation algorithm. It will be perfect for our scene. Next, for this scene, I've turned on motion blur. This effect is optional. In the Performance tab, expand Compositor and select GPU. Since we have a bloom effect that is applied at the end after each frame is rendered, the compositor uses either CPU memory or, as in this case, GPU memory. Again, this speeds up rendering, but requires more video memory. Let's also check the persistent data box. It will reduce rendering time a little. Now, if we check the Fast GI approximation box, the scene may become a little darker, since the samples are calculated more simply now. To fix it, we may use the exposure or gamma settings to brighten the scene a little if it comes out too dark. And to make our rendering even faster, let's go to the Output Properties tab. Here we'll change the save format. The default format is PNG, but saving this format takes longer than JPEG due to the larger size of PNG. That's why I use JPEG for faster saving. This completes our rendering settings. And now the bonus part. How to set up bloom in new Blender 4.5. Here we go to the Compositor tab. Let's make sure the compositor effects are enabled in the camera view. Add a glare node. Switch it to the bloom mode. And now, by pressing Ctrl-Shift-Click, we switch the viewer display to the glare. Then we may see the effect separately. And now we may customize it in detail. The quality may be set to high. Now the Highlights tab. Here, by limiting the threshold parameters, we may isolate the brightest areas of our scene. I'll set this parameter to 2. Next, the Glow Strength. Now the slider adjusts the parameters from 0 to 1. But we may enter a value, for example 5, to increase the glow effect. In this case, I will set the value to 2. And here I'll adjust the size of this glow. I'll set this value to 0.2. Now let's switch the output back to image. And this is the glare effect we've set up. Now the glare is disabled. And here it's enabled. Thank you so much for your time. And see you in new tutorials.